This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about. Singular history and tradition.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. This is so special.
Unmatched on-track intensity.
We gotta go.
And triple-header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Throw in a can't-miss concert, camping, and the legendary atmosphere of Talladega Boulevard. And you've got more than a race. You've got Talladega. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover with you from our Tuscaloosa studios as we look back at the USF win, look ahead to what's coming up on Saturday against Wisconsin for the Alabama Crimson Tide. We'll go through everything coming up on the show, plus our headlines, thanks to our friends RJ Young. RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us a smart board to go through everything in a real interactive way here on the show. We'll start by taking a look back at all the highlights from Alabama's 42-16 win against USF with our Booth Cam highlights. You can always watch the Yay Alabama Booth Cam streaming live during each and every Crimson Tide football game. We had a lot of touchdowns to talk about, especially in the fourth quarter. Then we'll talk to one of the defensive stars for the Crimson Tide, Jihaad Campbell, in a one-on-one conversation about his play so far through 2 games this year. Chris Stewart will be along, the voice of the Crimson Tide, to preview what's coming up tomorrow with head coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show, plus get his thoughts on Alabama's win against South Florida and the Wisconsin trip. Then Landon Collins will be along as our Alabama Legend of the Week. He was one of the honorary captains this past week as the 2014 SEC Championship team was recognized at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Then we'll take a look back to last night at Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills for an always fun edition of Crimson Tide Rewind presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health. So we'll have a snippet of that show for you. Be kind, Crimson Tide Rewind will round out the show. Crimson Tide football team, perfect 2-0 start to the year. Again, a tight game late until the fourth quarter with 10 minutes left to go. Still a 1-point game, but then down the stretch, Alabama outscoring USF. Really impressive fashion. The Crimson Tide winning 42-16. Emotional time on Saturday, not only before the game with the Walk of Champions, halftime as well with the ceremonies for the dedication of Saban Field. Great to see Coach Saban, Miss Terry in town. A very special time for the Saban family and for all of us as Alabama fans, saluting Coach Saban on what he meant to the University of Alabama. Tim Keenan III got in the backfield a lot for the Crimson Tide this past week as he had 9 tackles, including a sack and a half against USF. For that, he was named the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. Now this Saturday, a trip to Big Ten country, Alabama against Wisconsin coming up at 11 a.m. We'll hit the radio coming up at 8 a.m. from Camp Randall Stadium. Speaking of road trip to Big Ten country, it was Alabama soccer going on the road, beating Purdue last Thursday, and then fell against Michigan by just a goal, a 1-0 match on Sunday for the Crimson Tide as they'll be returning home later in the week. Volleyball team off to a winning start this season, did suffer its first loss of the year against Arizona this past week, but had a couple of wins at the ASU Collegiate Cup in Montgomery. Men's golf team starting its season and got off to a great start yesterday in the Folds of Honor Classic in Michigan. We look forward to seeing more results coming in from Alabama men's golf, but a very good start for all the swinging elephants. For the Crimson Tide football team, a solid start to the year as well. 2 wins already against Western Kentucky and USF. We'll take a look back at the Yay Alabama Booth Camp highlights from a winning Saturday in Tuscaloosa.
Talty checks to make sure everybody in Crimson's ready. To his left and his right, approaches the football, and we are underway. It's 2nd and goal from the 10. Quarterback keep right side. Milroe cuts it back now, cuts to the edge. He's at the 5. He's into the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama.
Boy, interesting formation there, Alabama. They had a bunch look tight to the right side with your tight end and 2 wide receivers, and then Justice Haynes was all the way out on the perimeter, and all 4 of those guys were able to maintain and sustain their blocks as Jalen Milroe picks his way through this South Florida defense.
See if they roll the dice and go for it here. I'd be a little surprised at 4th and goal from the 7, but not much to lose if you're USF.
But the way they've been moving the football, they have confidence that this won't be the last time they're down there.
And that's why they're going to bring the kicking unit on just to get points.
Yeah.
I tried to help you out right there.
I was following your lead, man.
I was
being your wingman.
I appreciate it. Milroe getting the snap, steps up in the pocket, breaks a tackle, flips it forward. Dupree the catch. He's got a first down. Move the sticks on a bank first down to the 41-yard line.
Haynes is the running back on the right side of the shotgun to Milroe. Milroe, 3rd down and 4 from the USF 5-yard line. Alabama up by a point. Milroe gets a snap, steps back in the pocket, stays on his feet. Milroe to the 5. Milroe to the end zone. Touchdown, Alabama. Jalen Milroe with a 5-yard touchdown rush.
Boy, and I tell you what, I don't think this play with most quarterbacks is going to result in a touchdown. They brought pressure, wholesale, cover zero, man-to-man on the outside. It was a design quarterback draw, I believe, and somehow or another he was able to maintain his balance in the contact he was experiencing and break free for the touchdown.
Bulls just 1 for 9 on 3rd down today. Getting the snap, Brown feels pressure. Tim Smith in the backfield. The Crimson Tide will wrap up Byron Brown and bring him down to the turf. 2nd sack of the ball game for the Crimson Tide. On the Guthrie sack count, it's 4th down.
I tell you what, this defensive secondary has done such a nice job on 3rd and long situations of staying in coverage that allows the defensive front to be aggressive, and it's just a matter of time before Tim Smith and those guys are able to get to Brown, the quarterback, because of the coverage downfield.
Brown, he gets the snap. Pressure coming up the middle. He's going to be down at the 23-yard line. The sack for the Crimson Tides, Tim Keenan III. That is the 3rd of the game. Damian, what'd you see there?
I saw a bull rush by big number 96 up the middle. The quarterback was looking downfield. I guess the secondary was doing a great job in coverage. I call that a coverage sack. We need that from those guys sometimes.
Now the punt upcoming from Andrew Stokes. No pressure from Alabama. Low line drive. Mbakwe should be able to return it. Gets it at the 38. Coming to the left side. 40. 45 of USF. Now at the 35 and pushed out of bounds at the 31-yard line. That's the lowest punt we've seen this evening from either side, and it results in the best return of the game. Jalen Mbakwe bringing it back for a return of 32 yards. Stick it in the end zone. Play some Dixieland Delight. Get a stop and score again, please. The Cynics wearing crimson.
Most of the time you don't take a dive, though, after the first play.
True.
It's after a drive starts. But don't let facts get in the way of feelings, right?
There you go. Haynes, the running back, to the right. Milroe gets the snap, trying to avoid the rush. Steps forward, fires a pass. Catch is made. Breaking a tackle into the end zone. Touchdown. Kobe Prentice, the Calera native, adds to the Bama lead. It's a 7-point advantage with the extra point pending.
I tell you what, though, they motion the formation, and that kind of tips off if it's going to be man or zone. You knew you had zone coverage, so it's just a matter of finding the right hole. But in Jalen Milroe stepping up, kept his eyes downfield, was able to find one of those voided areas, and Kobe Prentice was sitting in it, was able to break a tackle. Great
Nicholson
play.
On, try the extra point, trying to make it an 8-point lead, and he does.
It's like Elijah Pritchett is going to come in.
Quick snap, handoff, Miller again, 1st down again, big hole again, breaking tackles again, stretching across the 45 of USF and down to the Bulls' 43-yard line. Tyler Booker says, let's go, let's keep running out of 25 yards on that carry. Pass goes left. Williams makes a man miss. Foot race now. 15, 10-5, touchdown. 43 yards. Jalen Milroe finds Hollywood, and Williams takes it to the house.
Chris, you know what I love most about this is the fact that it's a simple play. It's just a little hitch route. You get the ball into your playmaker's hands. He makes a guy miss, but then at the last minute, he feels pressure coming from his backside. He changes the ball from his right to his left hand and does something so old school but so effective. Uses his stiff arm to keep the defender off of his legs as he's able to go across the end zone.
Brown waiting on the snap with 3 wideouts to the right, 1 to the left. Gets the snap, looking, firing across the middle, incomplete, and Alabama will take over on downs. Jam Miller, the running back, to the left of Milroe. He'll get the handoff. He'll stay on his feet. He'll turn it up. He'll go down the sideline. 30, cutting it back, 25, 20, 15, 10-5, touchdown, Alabama. Jam Miller, 56 yards, icing on the cake as the Tide leads it now 34-16. USF just 1 of 17 on 3rd downs in this football game. Wow. Into what is now a 42-16 advantage.
Can you explain to me how, if you're up and you can burn 10 seconds just by somebody going down, why wouldn't you just do that 4 plays in a row?
That's a great question.
How can that be a proper interpretation of the rule?
Take that up at the committee meeting on Monday for us. I don't think they'll have to snap it again. They won't. USF, another tough effort 2 years in a row against Alabama, but the Crimson Tide, this time of Coach Kalen DeBoer, able to walk off the field at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium with a 42-16 victory.
Crimson Drive is driven by NASCAR, and NASCAR is returning to one of its most iconic tracks for the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. Witness all-out, full-speed racing on the high banks of Talladega, kind of like Daytona, but it's in Talladega. It's here in Alabama. Be a part of the electric NASCAR playoffs atmosphere, from the unrivaled camping experience to all the cars ripping up laps at nearly 200 miles per hour. Talladega is nothing to mess around with. Great memories with your family that will last a lifetime, and lock in your seats today for the Yellowwood 500 at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com. As you can tell, a lot of fun we had in the booth. The Yay Alabama Booth Cam will be live and running coming up on Saturday as well, when we go to Madison, Wisconsin for Alabama against Wisconsin in week 3 of the season. Top tackler this past Saturday for the Crimson Tide was Jihaad Campbell. He led the way with 11 tackles against USF. He joins us as one of our 2 one-on-one conversations this week on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Roll Tide, and welcome back to Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, as we're at Bryant-Denny Stadium inside the Advantage Center. I'm Roger Hoover, now pleased to be joined by Crimson Tide linebacker Jihaad Campbell. And Jihaad, Roll Tide, 2 games in, the Crimson Tide 2-0. How do you feel about the start to the year?
I definitely feel good. Just of all the progress that we made in the offseason, and, what we set the tone by, and, how we set our standard of ourselves, and, just holding each other accountable, game by game and day by day.
What have you liked about your role in this defense?
Well, I would say it's more flexible, and it's more, complex. You got different roles that you got to have more responsibility in. You got things that you have to take care of more, and you got to hold yourself accountable. And for me, I got to make sure I'm making sure I'm in my playbook. I'm knowing my calls. I'm knowing my checks. That I could give to myself, but not only myself, but the D line, the safeties. And just really just communicating with everybody. And I mean, at the end of the day, everybody just doing their job and executing. So we could get a 3 and out and get off the field.
Do you love that swarm D mindset? Has everyone really adopted that?
Definitely. I mean, part of that also, definitely allows the word takeaways, and I think that's something big that we need to start doing more often. Which comes with more preparation, more execution and practice. Which creates it in the games and stuff like that. And I mean, that'll be coming up definitely.
A couple players we've seen really emerge that we've seen before here at Alabama. James Smith, Justin Jefferson. What have you liked about the start those guys have had of their year?
I mean, those guys are very great hard workers. They're great leaders too. I think when you look at them off the field, I think they do a lot of great things and studying and making sure that they on top of their stuff, nutrition, or going to class, all those little things, that add up to how are you doing things on the field, that makes them who they are. So.
Then how about the pressure the D-line's getting right now? Do you like that?
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. I think our D-line is very phenomenal and very key for our defense. So salute to all them boys, man, all them big boys up there, man. Just keep on grinding and keep on doing your job.
It has been good to see. Of course, you're one of the players that played on the very last team coached by Nick Saban. Now you're on the first one coached by Kalen DeBoer. How special was Saturday seeing Saban Field dedicated?
It was definitely awesome. It was a surreal moment. Just like that's legendary, when you think about it, like Saban Field, like dang. And I mean, for me, it was like, dang, because like you said, like I played for Coach, and just seeing him back is very great and it's very awesome, especially for the alumni guys that was, there and, cheering us on too, for the victory.
So now this Crimson Tide football team off to a 2-0 start, but for the first time you're away from Tuscaloosa. Do you relish the opportunity to play on the road, especially at a place like Wisconsin? Oh,
yeah, we ready. I mean, we real warriors, so, I mean, we destined for it. And, day by day, we're going to make sure we execute and we prepare and practice so that we can go out there on Saturday and kick butt.
We look forward to it. Jihaad Campbell, thank you for your time. Roll Tide.
Definitely. Roll Tide.
This is what being a NASCAR fan is all about.
Gets the win at Talladega.
Singular history and tradition. And triple-header playoffs action to ratchet up the stakes. Get your tickets now at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com.
Fun conversation with Jihaad Campbell, and coming up on Thursday, we will have another one-on-one conversation with an Alabama linebacker, someone we talked about in that last interview. Justin Jefferson will join us for a quick conversation about his start to the 2024 season. Great start for Chris Stewart as the voice of Crimson Tide football this year as well, in addition to his role as the host of Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show that's coming up tomorrow here in Tuscaloosa at Baum Howard's Victory Grill at 6 p.m. So with Chris, each and every week here on Crimson Drive, we look ahead to what's coming up at Hey Coach, plus get his thoughts on Alabama's win against South Florida and what's coming up against Wisconsin. Chris, we're going to be in Wisconsin. Roll Tide.
We're going to be in Wisconsin and excited about that. First time to go from a football standpoint and really looking forward to it, Roger. It's, when Coach Saban came in, there was all the excitement about the neutral site games that we played, and that was kind of the trend. I'm not going to say those have completely run their course, but now that we've gotten in championship games and bowl games at the level playoff games and bowl games, we get plenty of neutral site activity from an Alabama perspective. It's neat to do the home and home, and especially now that you're in a spot where the playoff gives you, as I've called it, a safety net. You can afford to play a game like this, and obviously going in expecting to win, but you can schedule these both sides, knowing somebody's going to lose, but yet could still help themselves as far as the playoff picture just by having played that game if they can take care of business in their other matchups.
So we're certainly looking forward to what's coming up on Saturday between Alabama and Wisconsin. A quick look back to this past Saturday. Alabama picks up the win against South Florida. Really dominant fourth quarter for the Crimson Tide, maybe learning how to clean up a few mistakes from what we saw earlier as Alabama picked up a 42-16 win. But what did you like about the finish, especially Alabama had to that game against the Bulls?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk, obviously. Well, it was 14-13 going into the fourth quarter, and even 5 minutes into the fourth quarter. I get that. I understand that. There were a lot of mistakes made for that to be just a 1-point game. At the same time, South Florida did enough good things that they had a chance to have a lead and maybe a 2-score lead with the way Alabama was struggling to hang on to the football offensively, but the defense didn't let it happen. They limited them in what they were able to do. Yeah, gave up yardage, but not a ton of points. And then when the offense got going, and it's what I think is going to make this is not going to be, as we referred to it for so long, as joyless murder ball. I think there will be moments of that, moments of misery maybe instead of joyless murder ball that we'll call it. But, the ability to strike quick. I go back, what was the Western Kentucky game? Yeah, it was last week. Western Kentucky, where they had a 22-play drive, got no points, and then 2 plays later, Alabama goes for an 85-yard score, and it's over at that point. There's a ton of football left, but everybody knew that game was over at that point. I think the quick strike ability, whether it's on the ground or through the air, is going to make Alabama so tough, and it's why you may have some more games like this. It's tight. It's a one-possession game either way, but all of a sudden that offense hits big and hits on multiple accounts. And all of a sudden we're walking out of that stadium with a smile on our faces.
Who's impressing you the most on the defensive side of the ball right now for Alabama?
The thing that's impressed me the most, besides Tim Keenan and what he's doing in the middle to disrupt and cause problems, I would say it's the fact that there is this much depth, and there are some mistakes being made. But the fact that in the course of a game, a long season, that you can have a lot of guys playing. What was it? Western, we saw 25 take the field on the defensive side, give or take a couple. I don't remember what the number was in the game against USF, but the fact that we're seeing a lot of kids play, I think is going to be huge. So beyond Tim, Justin Jefferson, before he was unfortunately thrown out of the game for targeting the other day, which I still am not wild about the call. There was a fake. I'm all for when a quarterback is giving himself up as a defensive player going into a slide, taking that out of the game. But when a quarterback goes with a pump fake and then he gets hit after Justin has already moved towards him, That's football to me. And yes, I'm biased. May have felt different, if it were Jalen that had gotten hit, but there comes a point where you got to give the defense a fighting chance on things, and we're not going to have him for the next week because of that. I realize I digress and I apologize, but he's a guy that has stepped in and been a big, big part of what Alabama's been doing, and they're going to miss him, I think, in the middle of that ball game or in the first half of that ball game on Saturday against Wisconsin.
Also important against Wisconsin, running the football, and in the fourth quarter, we saw those explosive plays. I mean, what a great 1-2 punch Alabama has right now with Justice Haynes, Jam Miller.
No doubt. And really, you have to say 3 running backs because you got to count Jalen. Designed runs, or if, protection is there or coverage is there, protection breaks down, he's as dangerous a runner as there is anywhere. So you're absolutely right. Whether you're talking about Jam or Justice or Jalen, it's the Triple J farms that we've got going for us there, and those horses can all run, and it's going to be exciting, I think, over the course of the year. And again, it gives the young guys behind them an opportunity to develop, and they're going to. It's going to be a very, very deep backfield as it's been, and probably as good a 1-2 combo as anybody in the country has, and definitely 1-2-3 combo when you throw in Jalen.
I know we're talking to you early in the week as you're starting to dive into your Wisconsin preparation, but any questions you have about the Badgers or things that are going to be on your mind as we get ready for this game Saturday?
It's tough because you're right. I haven't gotten into them yet and haven't looked at any of the film on them yet. I think Alabama's the question I have is not so much them as how does Alabama handle the road environment? And they always in the last 17 years seem to manage that very well. I think this team will. I really do. I think there's a lot of times where big games and big environments benefit the visitor because noise is noise. And they can be, it creates excitement, and there is some joy in making it quiet in a venue. I don't think communication is going to be a problem, but can Alabama continue to be a team that comes in and wrecks the what could be a big day for the home team? I'm looking forward to seeing that.
We'll look forward to that coming up on Saturday as our radio coverage will start at 8 a.m. from Madison, Wisconsin, Saturday morning. Hopefully you're going to be bringing the coffee and the donuts.
I may just stay up late Friday night. That may be the better. But go back to the college days. I'm just going to cram the night before and stay up and take the test and hopefully do okay. But you're right. It's going to be fun. I'm excited about it and just hope that we still consider it fun when the game wraps up mid-afternoon.
Absolutely. Well, that's coming up Saturday, Wednesday. Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show, 6 o'clock at Baumhauer's in Tuscaloosa. Chris, you got a busy week ahead. We look forward to hitting the road for the first time this year with the Crimson Tide. Just thank you so much for your time with us today on Crimson Drive. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, buddy. Glad to do it. And again, great job. As we were all thrown out of whack on Saturday with that incredible celebration of the Sabins and the honoring of him with Saban Field. And it's nice to have a roster like we've got, man. We got a lot of depth, and you proved it once again with the job you did. And thanks so much for that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And again, thank you for everything you did for the Saban family. Really special before the ball game of the Walk of Champions, halftime as well. Alabama, of course, we're known for being first class in collegiate athletics with things like this. And I think you'll agree, Alabama showed that on Saturday with how they honored the Saban family.
No question. I'm not sure how it could have gone any better. The signage in the stadium looking fantastic. The lights. We even had the better weather this week than we did the previous week. It was special, and glad I got a chance to see it up close and personal.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Chris. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, buddy.
Crimson Drive is driven by NASCAR. Don't miss out on your chance to see the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs return to Talladega coming up on October 6th. Purchase your tickets today for the Yellowwood 500 at TalladegaSuperspeedway.com. Be a part of one of the most electric playoff atmospheres in all of sports. We continue on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, by taking a little bit of a look into the past. On our Tuesday edition of the show, we always like to talk to our Alabama Legend of the Week. And once again, back-to-back weeks, we're sticking with the 2014 Alabama Crimson Tide that won the SEC championship and earned a berth in the first ever college football playoff. Last week, we talked to the quarterback, Blake Sims, one of the captains of that team. And now we talked to one of the safeties on the team and another captain, Landon Collins, who was in attendance in Tuscaloosa this past weekend when the 2014 SEC champions were honored. And Landon joins us now to not only talk about his maybe controversial decision to sign with the University of Alabama, plus everything he's been up to recently. Here's our one-on-one conversation this week with Alabama legend Landon Collins. Landon, I got to say, Saban Field, it was a pretty special night. How was everything in Tuscaloosa? Roll Tide.
Oh, man, it was live. It was awesome. It was a great feeling getting to see all the guys that played with, the alumni, the B-Side 5, the brotherhood that we built in the program that we built on that field, and to see Coach Saban, to see him still happy-go-lucky, still a part of the program, still a part of the Crimson Tide, which we love and we desire and we love that he's still there. And naming the field after him, which he's rightfully deserved. Like, that's awesome.
It really was cool to see, and I imagine for you guys, it had to be a little different as well. We're all adjusting to Coach Saban not being the football coach for the Crimson Tide. What was it like seeing him on the sidelines, pregame, even around halftime and stuff? I mean, it was very different.
It was great not to see those veins popping out of his head, yelling at his kids like he did us. And just he was stress-free, could be himself, to chill, relax, and enjoy the game from a spectator standpoint and see his guys win still.
Well, for you, looking back at your career, you went from Dutchtown to Alabama to the NFL. First of all, we got to talk about the decision to sign with Alabama. What do you remember first about the Crimson Tide in your recruiting process?
So it was a family when I first came. And then my first recruiting time here at Alabama was my 10th grade year of high school. I came to the school. I think I was a 2.5, 3-star kid at the time. And they treated me like I was a 5-star. I was a guy for them. They're ready to have me now. They wanted me to commit. I wanted to commit after that day, after that game. I can't recall what game I went to, but just seeing the atmosphere there, just how they treated one another, how Coach Saban was not just a coach but also a father figure for us. And it was a blessing just to be able to choose that, make that decision. I made that decision in my 10th grade year, but everybody knows I made it at the what it's called? The
Under Armour game? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest, most viral moments of recruiting announcements ever, because you make that decision to start putting the Alabama gloves on. You have your mom right next to you. Where did your mom want you to go to school?
My mom wanted to go to LSU Hoover, It happens, though. It happens, but she just didn't want me to leave home. I mean, I was her oldest. I was her firstborn man of the house. So she just didn't want me to leave home. I understood that,
Did she come around to Alabama eventually, wear crimson against LSU, anything like that?
Nah. No, she was just saying, I'm glad you made it and you made the decision for yourself and that I made it to the NFL and made my dreams come true.
You certainly did, through a lot of hard work in Tuscaloosa. How'd you work your way onto the field as a young player? Special teams.
If you want to play for Alabama, if you want to play for this alumni, you want to play for this B-Side 5, and you want to be a part of this program, special teams be your best bet to get on this field. I started off at kickoff. I was on punt return. I was on punt, and I wasn't on kick return. I wasn't on kick return, but I was a backup kick returner. And I was the gunner on punt. So, special teams is a big key factor because it takes 3 phases of the game to dominate a team or to win a game. And it's not just offense and defense. You need to know all 3 phases of the game and learn all 3 phases of the game and build that confidence up within yourself and get that confidence within the coaches to be able to trust you to be on the field and knowing what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to do it and how you're supposed to do it.
Then your second year here at Alabama, Vinny Cincinnati sustains an injury, so you step into a starting role for the Crimson Tide, and quite a debut against Tennessee, a 89-yard pick six. So what do you remember about that play here at Bryant-Denny?
Oh, man, Kenyon Drake was supposed to score, fumbled at the 1-yard line and right before halftime. And they was marching the ball downfield on us. And for some reason, I was like, we got to make a play. Me and Haha was back there talking to one another. Haha called it. He said, one of us going to make an interception right here. And then sure enough, it was myself bringing it down the field for 89. You said 89, right? 89 yards.
Yep.
Down the sideline. Dream come true. Well established. Building up that confidence in within myself and like my teammates and knowing that I'm going to be on that back end, making sure nothing happens. And that's what I did.
Special season for you then. And then as a junior, you become one of the leaders of the team in 2014, eventually named one of the team captains for that SEC championship year. What made that season so special? Because that was somewhat of an underdog story for Alabama compared to some other years you were there. Yeah,
because just guys left. We had so many guys leave us with C.J. Moses as one of the top guys as our leader on our defense. A.J. McCarron on the offense, a couple of receivers on the offense. I mean, we was a dominant team the following year. So with those guys leaving, we had guys that needed to step up and show that they're capable of leading this team, leading this defense offensively and special teams wise. And that's what we had to do. We knew we had to do that because that time was coming. So with that being said, we just stuck together, honestly, and we fought. We had hard games. We had games we kind of brushed through. So yeah, we had to fight a lot of games. I think that game was, I know that year was the Arkansas game. Arkansas game with 13-12, I think, the whole time, right? So
that's right. And then you shut down Dak Prescott as well here in what was a huge win over number one Mississippi State.
Correct, and they should never been number one at that time anyway, but we ain't going to talk about that.
Hey, you showed him. He got the last laugh winning the SEC championship. And then for you go on to play in the NFL, Giants, Redskins as well. Just how did Alabama get you ready for the NFL, specifically Coach Saban with the way he worked with the secondary?
Coach Saban-wise, just film work, studying habits, knowing what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to be looking at, staying keyed into what the progressives of the offense is doing. Not just with just Coach Saban. I had Coach Pruitt and Coach Smart teaching me those things. Also Coach Schumann teaching me all those things. It helped out a lot because at times when you get to college, you don't know how to watch film. You just kind of we're trying to figure it out. I had guys like Vinny, Robert Lester teaching me also to watch this film. And then with all that helping and all those questions, is one thing about us, we always ask questions to one another. There is no bad questions, because that question that you did not ask because you might have been scared to ask, it might have been the answer to your question on the field that you needed. So we always stay communicative, transparent, and made things mesh.
Certainly did. So once your NFL playing career came to a close, what have you been up to? We know you're in the middle of a workout right now. Any comeback in your future? You look like you're ready.
I'm definitely ready. Just waiting on that phone call. I haven't retired yet. Still training. I've been training for the last 6 months. Waiting on the phone call just to be ready. Staying in shape. That's for myself. Myself right now, got a couple of things going investment wise, and being my own entrepreneur. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
That sounds good. Well, Landon Collins, best of luck to you. Thank you so much for joining us as our Alabama Legend of the Week, and we look forward to seeing you again down the road here in Tuscaloosa. Roll Tide.
Coming for the Georgia game, so I'll be back.
To show you this Alabama Yeti. It's black. It's got the baseball scripts in metallic Alabama across the front. You can only purchase this. This is an exclusive that you can find at Champions Lane, Vector Security Champions Lane, throughout Alabama's home games this season. So make sure you check it out. Last year we sold Yetis like this at Champions Lane, and they went very, very quickly. So make sure, especially with that baseball script, you get that and you're ready to go for the upcoming season. Here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, we have a full week of programming, something new and original each and every day across not only our radio network, but also all of our social media platforms, television network as well. And on Monday night, we always have a fun time with Crimson Tide Rewind, presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health, 6 p.m. at Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills. We always have a very lively and energetic crowd on hand, led by our friends Johnny Montgomery, of course. But we have a great time with Corey Reamer breaking down Crimson Tide football games. We also look ahead to what's coming up, but here's a snippet of what we had last night during our hour-long show that you can listen to on the Alabama Insider podcast. The video replay of the full show available as well on the CTSN YouTube channel, but this is a segment we like to call Be Kind, Crimson Tide Rewind.
Corey, the Alabama Crimson Tide, 2-0.
2-0, it wasn't pretty. We all were a little bit more stressed than we probably planned on being on Saturday, but and we said it on after the game was over with, I think Alabama fans are going to be excited when South Florida is no longer on our schedule. I think we got one more.
2026, the Bulls do come back to Tuscaloosa.
Okay. All right. Well, we will be looking at that game completely differently after the 2 games that we've played against them in the last 2 years. I mean, they come in and they give us every single thing we got. Obviously, last year was a little bit different situation. I think Coach Saban was trying to prove a point in the quarterback situation. Goes out there and Jalen Milroe doesn't get a start, doesn't play at all. And then turn around this year, and we just had so many mistakes in the first half, but 5 minutes left to go in the game, find a way to put 21 points on the board real quick, and the score was definitely not a good picture of what the actual game was. But all in all, it was a win. You got to take it. When you're in college football, especially these days, getting to 2-0 is the main goal. You walk away with a win. You go back to the drawing board and you figure out what you did wrong and try to fix a lot of those mistakes.
So the offense able to have some explosive plays in the fourth quarter, outscoring the South Florida Bulls 28-3. The defense only allowing 1 touchdown, kind of a bend, don't breaks type night, it seemed like. For the defense.
And they got put in some pretty tough situations. I mean, there was a couple turnovers, some penalties that that didn't help them out. But between the 20s, it seemed like South Florida was able to move the ball a decent amount. And but when they got into that red zone, they were able to really shut them down, hold them to some field goals, especially late in the game. South Florida had an opportunity to score late, to take the lead. I think it was take the lead or maybe even tie the ball game up. And they really got a crucial stop inside the 10-yard line or 15-yard line and gets them to a field goal. You got to give them a lot of credit. And there's a lot of work to be done on both sides of the ball. We talked about the difference between week 1 and week 2 and what you as a team can improve on. There's usually a lot of room for improvement. After a game like Western Kentucky, the ease that we were able to go out there and have success on offense and really didn't feel very threatened by Western Kentucky's offense at all. Kind of hard to figure out exactly what you have when you go back and watch the tape. Did a lot of things well, but the mistakes are a little bit harder to find. This game, I imagine Coach DeBoer and his staff, when they showed up on Sunday and watched this tape, they had a number of things to get fixed because, this defense holding them to 13 points. In the first half, there was a couple throws that went sailing over a few wide receivers from South Florida that could have easily been completions in big plays. So this game, we had a lot of rotation going on, a lot of different positions. We saw guys running out. We played 20 guys on defense the first game. We had a number of guys that were rotating in that secondary. There's still, it seems like we're a broken record because every year about this time of the season, we always talk about we're just trying to figure out what the right mix is at each position. So we've had a different offensive line, moving some guys around. Some guys get hurt. A lot of replaced guys in the secondary on defense. But I got faith in this staff. They're going to go back to the drawing board and really get this kind of ironed out and figure out how to eliminate a lot of the mistakes. But they played well enough to get the win.
So we mentioned the defense a moment ago, Corey. A lot of good things, especially up front. And leading the way was Birmingham native Tim Keenan III, as he was named the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. 9 tackles. He had a sack and a half, 2.5 tackles for a loss. Great game, Tim Keenan.
Yeah, that front seven had their work cut out with Byron Brown. As mobile as he was, he was the leading rusher for this team coming in this season, coming in this game, only after 1 game. But even last year, we knew that this guy could really make a lot of plays with his feet, very similar to what we see out of Jalen Milroe. And the passing attack was not what their strength was. They did take some shots. We were able to get some pressure, move him off his spots where he wasn't able to complete some deep balls, where he had some open receivers running down the field. But I thought this defensive line has done a phenomenal job of pushing the pocket, try to contain a guy like him who likes to escape, has a lot of quarterback design runs, coming up and swarming to that football. That's what I've noticed about Womack's defense is they do swarm to the football all over the place. As soon as we get one guy that makes contact, you can tell he's off and running. This defense is hustling to get to the football, know that it takes more than one guy to take guys down, especially guys athletic as Byron Brown was. And he's a tough test. I mean, I don't know how many quarterbacks we're going to face that are like him. He gave us the same fits last year, using his feet to extend plays. But this front seven, having the guys returning that we had from last season, they're a solid unit. We're going to keep seeing big things out of those guys.
4 sacks overall in the ballgame for the Crimson Tide. I mentioned Tim Keenan with a sack and a half, also half of a sack for Jihaad Campbell. Great to see Q Robinson, too, on what we understand was a very emotional night for him. Lost his father earlier in the week. Q Robinson keeps making plays. We keep talking about him each week.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a guy that, every single week And going into the season, he was a name that kept getting circulated as being that guy who's going to be an impact player. With Dallas Turner gone and Will Anderson gone, who's going to be that guy that's going to be a force off the edge and be able to make some plays? Now you got a new defensive coordinator, new scheme implemented, and Q Robinson's been playing his tail off. I mean, that guy, he's got a motor. He's a big boy that can run fast, and he's all over the field. I'm sure it was an emotional night for him, but he is hopefully continuing to develop as a player. But what we've seen from him so far has been exciting. I mean, this defense is fun to watch. It's a different scheme from what we're used to from Coach Saban, especially on the back end more so than up front. With the way that we do, pattern matching was what Coach Saban liked to do with the man zone concepts. This is a lot more zone heavy of a secondary unit, and it's been successful so far. It's been fun to watch. These guys, I think they enjoy playing this style. They keep it simple is what is what I like to see is, Coach Saban and Coach Smart, when he was a defensive coordinator, they like to go, wit for wit. They like to try to really identify with what the offenses were doing and try to get in that perfect play call to try to shut offenses down. And, Coach Kynes, when I was there, there was a game we played Florida, who was ranked number 5 at the time. We came in and we probably ran 2 different calls the entire game. We just had athletes out there that could go out there and make plays. And Womack seems to be leaning more towards that route than he does, trying to have, a playbook that's, 3 or 4 inches thick to try to memorize for these players. Let's get them in position, let them go play fast as possible. And they seem to be responding to it. These guys are moving all over the place.
I ask you all the time about your memories of playing for Coach Saban, but you brought up his name and I saw Todd smile, so I got to ask. Memories again of Coach Kynes, who again was able to lead Alabama in that bowl game, gave probably the greatest halftime interview we've ever seen in college football history.
I mean, if that would have happened, if he would have been doing that today with social media the way it is, what year was that? That was 2007.
Yeah. Six going into 7.
6 going into 7. I mean, he still is a meme. He went viral for that moment. And when we didn't even have Facebook at the time, or we just had Facebook at the time. He was one of the best. I mean, he was a guy that just was an old school coach, but he loved his players. And you always knew you were going to get something from him every single day. We had a guy named Chuck Kirschman, who was a linebacker from Florida, played with Tebow in high school, and he just started taking notes. He had a notebook of every little one-liner that Coach Kynes would throw out there. I mean, he could have easily written a couple books off of Coach Kynes. He was so much fun, and we had a fun defense when Coach Kynes was there. You never knew what he was going to say. I mean, he was so much fun to play for sure.
Looking forward to this trip. We've been talking about it for the last few years, and having this game on the schedule, certainly a good thing. SEC versus Big Ten, and this Wisconsin team's off to a 2-0 start.
Yeah, they are. These are 2 of the premier conferences in college football right now. We've seen these 2 conferences always represented in the postseason. It's going to be a good matchup. Wisconsin, obviously, they're coming off of some rebuilding years. They're trying to, get some things changed out, but they did get a great transfer in from Miami and Tyler Van Dyke, who's a great player. We've seen him. SEC fans know him well. He's had some pretty good games against, I think it was last year against Texas A&M, had 4 or 5 touchdowns. He's one of those guys that he's hit or miss. Like, he's a guy that can really have some big games, or he can be off, and everybody wants to anoint him as one of the great quarterbacks in college football, and he can show flashes of that a lot of times throughout the season. We've seen it on a lot of Saturdays when he was wearing that Miami uniform, and then he'll come out and when you expect him to have big games and kind of lay a dud. These first 2 games, they've had Western Michigan, I believe, was the first one, and they go out there and they put some points on the board. They had some good things to show for it, but it's really not been from his arm, which a lot of people expected it to be. It's been more in the rushing attack for Wisconsin, but there's a lot of talent there. They've got a great staff up there. It's a proud program. Camp Randall's going to be rocking. Whenever Alabama shows up, they're going to be ready to make it as loud as possible, as difficult as possible at that 11 o'clock kick. I understand it. Yeah. I understand that it's, the market, the TV market is one of the best rated slots of the day. That big noon kickoff is one, and I love Joel Klatt. He's one of the best ones. I enjoy watching his games, but Alabama fans, I remember we used to dread having those 11 o'clock kicks, because that means you got to wake up 6 a.m. You got to get going pretty quickly. You don't have time to watch game day or do anything, kind of get in your routine. the biggest thing that this team needs is to be able to get their feet on the ground and hit it running. And the running game, the rushing attack is going to be one of those things that's going to help us out. Whenever you got these early starts, you want to get your running backs involved early. We had 40 rushing attempts, including Jalen Milroe last week. Jan Miller, Justice Haynes have really proved to be a very great dynamic duo, two-headed monster from that rushing attack. And I'm expecting big things out of them. That's a weakness that we can try to exploit from this Wisconsin defense. I think their rushing defense is one of their weaknesses, and we're going to just go up there, eat the clock, especially in these early games, eat the clock as much as possible, kind of wear these teams down. We saw us wear down South Florida towards the end of the game, albeit it was, the last 5 minutes. It took a while for us to do it, but had a lot of success on the ground. I expect this offensive staff to go out there and try to establish the run pretty early against this Wisconsin defense, who's known for having some pretty stellar defenses in the past.
They certainly are. And again, Alabama's offensive line, something to watch. Tyler Booker, we really didn't even talk about this as much, but he moves over to that left tackle position. Elijah Pritchett takes over at right tackle in the fourth quarter. You expect something similar if Caden Proctor's not able to go?
Yeah, Elijah Pritchett comes in at the end of the game, and he's still not 100%. I think he even said he's about 60-70% healthy, and goes in there and plays well. You can't put anything on one guy. It's, circumstances are completely different towards the end of the game. You've got a worn-out USF defense that has had some success, but I imagine there's probably going to be a shift in this offensive line of what it's going to look like, who's going to be where. Tyler Booker is one of those guys, no matter where you put him, you're going to try to run the football wherever he is. And I was impressed by the way that he played, being out that, pushing out the left tackle is not an easy gig for anybody. So for him to go from guard, where he's always been, and play as well as he did, had maybe one penalty, I believe. I don't know what it was, but overall I thought he played extremely well. But I imagine the shift is coming. They're going to have some different faces, some different names, depending on who's healthy. Hopefully we can get this line back to 100% at some point in the future quickly, because we got some tough matchups coming up, not only this weekend, but in the next few weekends.
Friends, check out Game Day Done Right, because there's one thing we can really all agree on. No one wants to be the last one left at a tailgate at the end of the game, having to do all the cleanup, all the breakdown while their friends are out celebrating. If you've been in this situation before, you know the true value in what the team at Game Day Done Right provides. They handle the entire process for you, from setup to breakdown. Stellar customer service on game days to make sure your group is taken care of from start to finish. All you have to do is visit GameDayDoneRight.com, reserve your tailgate package, and let their team take it from there.
Well, that's going to wrap up this Tuesday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. But as I mentioned earlier in the show, we've got something for you each and every day covering Alabama football and Alabama athletics. Let's take a look at our upcoming schedule. Tomorrow it will be Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show here in Tuscaloosa at Baumhauer starting at 6 p.m. Should be a lot of fun as we get ready for Wisconsin. A lot of talk previewing the Badgers and the Crimson Tide coming up Thursday as well with Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, streaming live at 2 and always available on demand on our social media platforms. On Friday, make sure you log on to the Alabama Athletics YouTube channel for a new episode of Tide TV This Week, also available to watch on our TV affiliates all around the state. And then Saturday morning, first thing in the morning, 8 a.m., we will hit the airwaves. Not at 11 o'clock, we will start playing football between Alabama and the Wisconsin Badgers. Then Chris Stewart, Kalen DeBoer will talk about it on the Kalen DeBoer TV show, which will be available to our TV affiliates on Sunday as well as online on the Alabama Athletics YouTube channel and RolledTide.com. And then what you just saw a moment ago, Crimson Tide Rewind will be back on Monday night and taking a look really at the first 3 weeks of the season, then getting prepared for what will be an open date. We will kickstart everything the next Tuesday as well with our bye-week coverage on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. But again, something coming up each and every day here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and make sure you follow us on our social media platforms for clips from not only some interviews from these shows, but some of our booth cam highlights. We have more of that coming up this week as well. Just follow us at UA_CTSN. And again, that is going to wrap up this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Huge thank you to Jihaad Campbell, who joined us at the beginning of the show, plus Chris Stewart and Landon Collins. Really fun conversations with those guys. Again, we'll be looking ahead to Alabama and Wisconsin when we're back with you for this show coming up on Thursday at 2 o'clock. Thanks to Ethan Carabin, our video producer, put all this together, and thanks to all of you for watching. For everyone here in Tuscaloosa, this is Roger Hoover saying thanks again for watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, and Roll Tide, everyone.